Some facts sound so unlikely that your first reaction is to assume they're fake. But in this video, we are looking at facts about everyday things you never noticed that are real, visual, and stranger than they first appear. The first one sets the tone. The average person spends around 1.5 years of their life waiting for traffic lights to turn green. Here's where facts about everyday things you never notice becomes more unsettling than most people realize. The average person spends around 1.5 years of their life waiting for traffic lights to turn green. At first, that might sound like a random piece of trivia, but it reveals something important about every day. The reason this stands out is that it connects a simple fact to a much larger real-world process. When you picture it visually, it is not just a sentence on a screen, it is a scene, movement, scale, danger, and a hidden mechanism working in the background. That is what makes the fact memorable. It takes something people usually ignore and turns it into something that feels almost impossible. And once you understand the context, the fact stops feeling like a throwaway detail and starts feeling like a warning about how strange the world can be. This is why it belongs in a video about facts about everyday things you never noticed. It is surprising, visual, and much bigger than it first appears. To make the idea clearer, imagine the chain reaction behind the scene. A small detail can connect to scale, pressure, motion, energy, or risk, depending on the topic. That is the part most people miss. The fact is not interesting only because it sounds unusual. It is interesting because it reveals how much is happening beneath the surface. By the time you understand the mechanism, the fact becomes more than trivia. It becomes a reminder that the real world can be more dramatic than fiction. As we go about our daily lives, it's easy to overlook the small details that make up our homes. But have you ever stopped to think about the tiny gap between your bathroom tiles? It's a design feature so subtle, yet so crucial, that most of us never even notice it. This is known as the grout joint, a deliberate opening between each tile that may seem insignificant at first glance. However, its importance cannot be overstated. You see, when we clean our bathrooms, water often gets trapped between the tiles, and without the grout joint, it would have nowhere to escape, leading to moisture buildup and potential damage to the structure of your home. It's surprising that such a vital function is hidden in plain sight. Yet so many of us walk past these gaps every day without giving them a second thought. In fact, the grout joint is not just limited to bathrooms. It can be found between tiles in kitchens, hallways, and even outdoor spaces. Its presence is a testament to the ingenuity of architects and designers who have carefully considered every aspect of our living environments, often incorporating subtle features that go unnoticed by the naked eye. Whether you call it an oversight or a stroke of genius, one thing is certain: the grout joint may be small in size, but its impact on our daily lives is significant. Imagine typing away on your computer, effortlessly pounding out emails, messages, and documents with ease. But have you ever stopped to think about how the keyboard layout came to be? You might have thought that the modern computer keyboard was designed with efficiency in mind, but surprisingly, it wasn't. The shape of your keyboard has its roots in a bygone era, the typewriter age. Specifically, it's inspired by the QWERTY typewriter keyboard, which dates back to the 1870s. Designed by Christopher Scholes and Carlos Glidden, this early typing innovation was intended to prevent keys from jamming together as the machine rapidly advanced through characters. However, what's fascinating is that this layout has stuck with us despite the rise of computers, which would logically have required a more intuitive arrangement for optimal typing speeds. The QWERTY design actually prioritized slowing down typing speeds in order to accommodate the mechanical constraints of the time, a seemingly counterintuitive approach that's been carried forward into the digital age. As we continue to navigate the increasingly complex world of technology, it's remarkable to think that our everyday tools, like computer keyboards, have such an intimate connection to their industrial past. As you crack open a new book, you might not even notice the tiny gap between its pages, but the seemingly insignificant space is actually a clever design feature known as pocket air. This subtle detail plays a crucial role in making reading so much more enjoyable by preventing pages from sticking together due to static electricity. It's surprising because our brains are wired to ignore minor irritations, like the sensation of pages touching each other, which makes us oblivious to this gap even when we're holding a book. However, if you were to take out just one page from your favorite novel and try to fold it in half, you'd likely notice that it's surprisingly stiff and difficult to bend, a testament to the paper being designed to have some give. This subtle engineering is often overlooked, but it's a key factor in the overall reading experience. In fact, without pocket air, pages would stick together, making it uncomfortable to turn them or even impossible to keep the book open at your preferred spot. It's a small detail that makes a big difference, highlighting the ingenuity and attention to detail that goes into crafting everyday objects we often take for granted. As we go about our daily lives, we often find ourselves performing routine tasks on autopilot, without ever stopping to consider the intricacies of their design. Take the humble elevator button, for instance, a ubiquitous feature that's present in buildings all around the world. Yet, have you ever stopped to think why those buttons are typically placed on the right side of the panel? It may seem like a minor detail, but this deliberate placement is actually rooted in a fascinating phenomenon of human behavior. The answer lies in the way our bodies are structured specifically, the fact that most people are right-handed, but also tend to favor using their left hand when performing tasks that require reaching out from their body. This may seem counterintuitive at first, but it's actually due to the way our muscles and nerves are organized. By placing the buttons on the right side of the panel, manufacturers have inadvertently catered to this quirk of human physiology, making it easier for us to use our left hands when stepping into an elevator. It's a small detail that speaks volumes about the often overlooked ways in which design can influence our behavior and interactions with everyday objects. As we navigate the world around us, it's worth taking a moment to appreciate these subtle yet significant design choices. They may just change the way you think about the most mundane aspects of your daily routine. Here is where facts about everyday things you never notice becomes more unsettling than most people realize. The color of your smartphone's home button varies depending on the manufacturer. Apple uses gray, while Samsung uses blue. At first, that might sound like a random piece of trivia, but it reveals something important about every day. The reason this stands out is that it connects a simple fact to a much larger real-world process. When you picture it visually, it is not just a sentence on a screen. It is a scene, movement, scale, danger, and a hidden mechanism working in the background. That is what makes the fact memorable. It takes something people usually ignore and turns it into something that feels almost impossible. And once you understand the context, the fact stops feeling like a throwaway detail and starts feeling like a warning about how strange the world can be. This is why it belongs in a video about facts about everyday things you never noticed. It is surprising, visual, and much bigger than it first appears. To make the idea clearer, imagine the chain reaction behind the scene. A small detail can connect to scale, pressure, motion, energy, or risk, depending on the topic. That is the part most people miss. The fact is not interesting only because it sounds unusual. It is interesting because it reveals how much is happening beneath the surface. By the time you understand the mechanism, the fact becomes more than trivia. It becomes a reminder that the real world can be more dramatic than fiction. You reach for your water bottle every day without giving it a second thought. But have you ever stopped to consider what keeps it firmly in your hand? It's not just the shape or size of the bottle that prevents it from slipping away. There's something much more subtle at play. Take a closer look at the bottom of your water bottle, and you'll notice tiny ridges etched into the surface, a feature so minute that it's easy to overlook. These are called gripping marks, a design element that has been deliberately incorporated into the manufacturing process to prevent the bottle from slipping out of your grasp. It may seem like a small detail, but think about all the times you've almost dropped your water bottle. A minor slip or uneven surface could have easily sent it crashing to the ground. And yet, thanks to these tiny ridges, your bottle remains securely in place. This is not just a matter of good luck. It's actually a clever example of ergonomics and design coming together to create a practical solution to a common problem. The next time you pick up your water bottle, take a closer look at the bottom. It's likely that these gripping marks have been there all along, working quietly in the background to keep your drink safe and secure. As we go about our daily lives, it's easy to overlook the little things like the humble coffee mug that's been by our side since morning. But have you ever stopped to think about the handle on your favorite cup? It's a feature that's so ubiquitous, we rarely question its existence. Yet, as it turns out, the reason for this handle is rooted in a fascinating piece of history. The handle wasn't designed specifically with coffee mugs in mind, but rather as an afterthought from a bygone era when ceramics were used for brewing tea. In fact, the mug's design was originally intended to be paired with the teapot, allowing for effortless pouring and serving. It's surprising, really, we use our mugs every day without giving much thought to their history, yet they've been influenced by centuries-old traditions of tea etiquette. The handle, in particular, is a testament to this legacy, providing a convenient grip that makes it easy to lift the mug to your lips. And here's the kicker. If you take a closer look at older ceramic designs, you'll notice that some mugs don't have handles at all, or they are much smaller and more ornate than what we see today. This begs the question, how did this design evolve over time? What other everyday objects have similar stories of adaptation and innovation?